Enshrouded is an ambitious open-world survival RPG, and at first glance it does a lot of things right. The gameplay feels responsive, exploration can be rewarding, and the world immediately invites you in. But with ambition comes complexity, and not all of Enshrouded's systems work together as smoothly as I hoped they would. After spending a solid amount of time with the game, I want to take a closer look at what works, what doesn't, and why this game ultimately just didn't click for me personally. And where better to start than, well, the start of the game. Enshrouded makes a great first impression. Movement feels good, responsive, and the game does a solid job of easing you into its systems. Quests guide you through the early game without overwhelming you with walls of text, which I always really appreciate. The game also feels intuitive at the start. You can tell what you're supposed to do, how systems interact, and the destructible environments are always a plus. And I don't know why, but kicking open these chests just connected with me on a spiritual level. But this honeymoon phase didn't last long for me. Pretty quickly the game starts throwing a lot at you. The number of quests ramp up fast, and before long I had over a dozen active objectives with no clear indication of what I should actually focus on. Instead of feeling guided, I started feeling overwhelmed. And not in a fun sandbox way where whatever you do there's meaning and progress behind it, but more in a bland MMO way where whether you level in zone X or Y, it really doesn't matter. You're just doing it for the sake of experience. And this is something that we'll come back to later in the review. But first, let's look at movement. Movement initially feels great, and it has some highlights like the platforming and parkour elements. Those I really enjoyed a lot. However, the game is heavily built around its gliding system, and I really do not like it. I feel like the gliding system creates more problems than it solves. Let me take you through a couple of issues that I have with this system. So going down with gliding at least looks cool, and the first time you jump off a cliff, it is quite the experience. But finding your way back up can be very annoying, and it can be difficult to know how to reach certain objectives or locations, especially with the fog of war on your map. And it's not difficult in a fun, challenging way, but more in a you ran into an unexpected roadblock kind of way, forcing you to take the long way around or just teleporting back to your house and restarting your journey because you got stuck somewhere. When you're gliding, you're using stamina, and when you run out of stamina, you stop gliding and start falling. And whilst you're falling, you do not regain any stamina. So once you start falling, that's it, you're dead. Meaning you want to start with as much stamina as possible if you're going to glide. So what ended up happening for me a lot is that I'd just be standing still on the edge of a cliff, waiting for my stamina to regen. And that's not engaging, that is just boring. To me it would make a lot more sense to let the gliding system have its own stamina, or at least let a little bit of stamina regain whilst falling so you can glide to safety right before hitting the ground. All these points I just mentioned means gliding can easily get you into areas that you aren't prepared for, either combat or environmentally, or just get you stuck. Instead of solving traversal problems, this system is creating brand new ones. Looking at the combat of Enshrouded, I would say it is fine. It starts out promising, but for me it felt like it never really took that next step. It never delivered on that promise. And some parts work brilliantly. For example, when you swing your weapon, it is able to hit enemies within the full radius of that weapon swing. So if your weapon swing goes behind you, it will hit enemies if there are any there. That is amazing hitbox design, which I really appreciate. I also really like the talent tree letting you specialize and gain abilities. This felt balanced, where there were enough options for it to be meaningful, but not so many that you go into shell shock at the sheer amount of them like in Path of Exile. But then other parts fell short for me. It felt like the combat system worked on a queue-based system, like old school RuneScape does. So rather than being responsive to your real-time key inputs, it queues up your inputs. So for example, if I already pressed my left mouse button for a regular attack, but then wanted to cancel this because the enemy already died, it won't let you do this. You will swing over the dead body like an idiot because you'd already clicked your mouse. And both you and enemies often lock onto targets and sort of teleport toward each other, which made combat feel less precise. I also felt backstab damage was unbalanced. For example, in this clip I'm gonna be hit in the back by an enemy the same level as I am, and it hits me for 90 plus damage where I only have a little over 100 HP. And lastly, some enemies, like the Banshees, and this includes the Banshee boss, basically force you into a specific combat style. If I want to play as a stupid barbarian smashing my way through the game with the biceps that God gave me, I may do this. I appreciate having the option to range or mage, but don't force it on me. Death. An essential part of any video game and one of my personal specialities. Dying in Enshrouded is best described as annoying. And it's annoying in a way that stepping on a brick of Lego is annoying. It's not bad enough that you want to scout every room you go into for bricks or always wear safety shoes inside, but it is annoying enough to get real creative with some curse words. And boy did I get creative. Oh, you absolute piece of English bag loving. One thing I don't understand is that when you respawn after death, you respawn with half health. Why can't I just respawn with full health? Why? No. Death in Enshrouded felt like it existed in a confused state of limbo where it wasn't punishing enough for me to really actively avoid it, but it also wasn't easy enough to recover from to feel like it didn't matter at all, leaving my deaths feeling slightly annoying and often more unfair than instructive. The quest design and pacing were one of the biggest problems I had with Enshrouded. There are quests everywhere, points of interest everywhere, objectives constantly popping up. At one point I had 18 active quests, of which maybe 3 or 4 actually mattered and progressed the story. That's not exciting, that's exhausting. Because there's so much stuff, none of it feels meaningful. Quests started to feel like MMO filler instead of progression. This in turn made it that the world itself never really clicked for me. The world felt more like a shopping list than an exciting area to explore. No matter where I went, there was something, but rarely anything that felt important. Instead of feeling alive, the world felt noisy. If its quests and pacing is where Enshrouded annoyed me, its crafting and NPC system is where it really lost me. Crafting is split between NPCs, workbenches, and manual crafting. And it's a mess. Having to craft items at NPCs instead of workbenches is especially bad. You have to find and run to the correct NPC, and mind you, they're moving around through your house constantly. You look at the materials you need, run back to the storage chest to grab these materials, and if you're stupid like me you'll forget which materials you needed, then run back to the NPC who's in a different spot because they're moving around, and then craft the item. And if you're unlucky enough that this NPC is standing next to your flame, good luck clicking the bastard. This whole system is just workbenches with extra steps. And to add to this, inventory management and collecting resources is a drag as well. Just take something as simple as splitting stacks from your storage. It's never been more annoying than in Enshrouded. You can't split items directly from your storage into your inventory, so you have to do this within the chest. You can't individually split them by clicking or shift clicking or whatever. No, you have to do this manually and then move them from the storage chest into your inventory. And then if you want to use this item from your inventory, you have to put it in your action bar first. I have no idea why you release a system like this. It's mind-boggling. And collecting resources was just very boring. It was a drag to do. And none of these systems are difficult or a fun mechanic or challenge anything other than your patience. It's just tedious. As for the final verdict, Enshrouded just doesn't do it for me. I never felt connected to the world. It felt overwhelming rather than being guided. Traversal annoyed me. Combat was basic. Crafting and inventory management made me want to jump off something high. And speaking of high things, I had high hopes for this game. Maybe too high, and that probably made the disappointment harder. I was thinking I'd be jumping into a new Valheim when I started this. And look, clearly this game works for a lot of people. Its Steam reviews prove that. But after about 10 hours in, I had no desire to keep playing. For my reviews, I usually aim to beat the entire game or at the very least reach the end game. But I could just not bring myself to invest the time to do this with Enshrouded. Let's take a step back, a deep breath, and summarize Enshrouded's strengths and weaknesses. Start with its strengths. It's got a strong early game that explains the world without overwhelming you. The destructible environments add a nice touch of detail to the world. The parkour elements combined with the puzzles were a lot of fun. Its hitbox design is 10 out of 10, really well done. Other games should learn from this. And its talent system is balanced enough to matter, but not too much to shell shock you. As for its weaknesses, I often felt directionless in the game, being unclear about what to do and like the actions that I performed didn't actually matter. I did not like the gliding system. I feel like it creates more traversal problems than it solves. Being forced to use ranged or magic on boss and just regular mob encounters didn't feel right. The quests didn't feel meaningful at all, they felt noisy. The whole crafting system should be reworked and have the crafting moved from NPCs to dedicated workbenches. Splitting stacks gave me a splitting headache. It was horrible, genuinely the worst I've ever seen in any game. And the NPCs, much like the gliding system, I felt like they created more problems than that they solved. Also, resource gathering was boring. And lastly, I would like to say that I don't want to discourage anyone from trying Enshrouded for yourself, but I did want to be honest in my review and with the experience that I had. I'm 100% sure Enshrouded can be and is great for the right audience. I am just not part of that audience.